If you follow this path, this will be the key to your riches. 10 to 15 good uncorrelated return streams. I always have to think about what's the worst case scenario. Can I handle the worst case scenario, whatever that is? You can be a great investor, you can be great at anything, and it'll only be one time that knocks you out. One time will kill you. It's often the case that I believe I can produce a significantly higher return, I have, than the cost that I pay for debt. So it's a logical thing to do it, and I still don't do it much. And there's one thing about debt for consumption and debt for investment. Debt for consumption is really bad because the asset goes away and you're left with this obligation. And that's risky and it's stressful. You're living above your means. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. Whereas if you have debt for investment, you better be pretty sure that the returns on that investment will be higher than you have to give back in money in the form of both interest rates and the principal repayments. The best investments are typically those things that you're closest to, and they fall into two types. Those that affect your living standards, like I think owning a house or an apartment or your residence affects your life a lot. And the cost of it is not the cost of it. In other words, you buy it at a certain price. It's not like the thing that goes away and you consume, so you'll sell it at a certain price. And probably you'll modify it over a period of time. You'll make things, and it produces kind of a forced savings that also brings you joy and brings you a better environment, generally speaking. And then the other thing is things that you might know really, really well. Is it your own little business? But you could still take the cycle. So those are the two things that I think that are good for. I should say that one thing, when I did that, I discovered the three forces that I mentioned. I discovered a fourth and a fifth that are very important and big. One is that, interestingly, acts of nature in the form of droughts, floods, and pandemics have had a bigger impact than the things I've been talking about in terms of cost more lives or toppled more civilizations, those acts of nature. So I think that's something probably that we have to be concerned about. But number 5, over long periods of time, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, the most powerful force is man's ability to adapt and invent. Here's a Great Depression and here's a war. And as you see those things, they look like blips on the chart of life expectancy, per capita income, and so on. So there's a tremendous capacity for dealing with all the other stuff if man can adapt to it well. And inventiveness during this period of time should be kind of, I think, really great, because what we're using more and more is types of technology, artificial intelligence and so on. The ability to think and collect data and use the computer to help us with that is a very, very powerful force. Now, like any forces, it's also a risky force because it can be used for bad as well as for good. I think the world will evolve. We will have these cycles in the world. So that's what you see. You see these cycles, and then you see evolution through those cycles and adaptation. And so I expect that. I think we're in an era of that money as we know it, which is a fiat money, is being devalued, and it's going to change. The dollar's role is going to change, and that alternatives are going to compete with that. So like, I wouldn't want to own money when you own a dollar, let's say, is in the form of a debt instrument. So you're going to get paid back in that. And I think it'll have a negative real rate, no negative buying power, and so on in almost any currency. And they're all competing. So they're all devaluing, essentially. And so money is both a medium of exchange and a storehold of wealth that is portable and works in most countries. And now we'll find out what those things are. I mean, gold is an example of one of those, and crypto is an example of those. Maybe NFTs are, and who knows? I think we're in a kind of a who knows kind of phase. New things come along, and I think they'll compete. People will start to think about, how do I have a portfolio of those things that are widely accepted, that I can and that maintain buying power? There's challenges to that. Like when you have a lot of volatility in it, it means that, oh my God, my owning it is more risky than my not owning it. And so that drives money into sort of other things. But anyway, we're going to struggle with that. And you're going to see digital currencies in different countries and so on. And I honestly don't know. I don't think one thing wins out. I do think that a lot of the crypto, like all markets, they go through phases. And there's kind of the bubble phase where it goes up a lot and everybody believes it and everybody's bought it. And then you have the adjustments and so on. I think there's too much emphasis in it because the total value, of Bitcoin or even the cryptocurrency is comparable to the value of Microsoft. One has to think, when one thinks of assets, I would rather think of the whole array of assets than to think about, is it going to be that crypto Bitcoin one?
Yes.
I think people could be too concentrated on that. And I think that could be dangerous. It's the game that I happen to fall in love with. If you learn to play the game well, it pays well. Well, I think that's true with a lot of people who are coming up with ideas and building businesses and so on. They got excited about it. It works well, and then it pays well. To me, it's a serious mistake thinking that success is measured in such things because money has no intrinsic value. Okay, what does money get you and what do you need? Now, what I want is freedom and the ability to be creative, and money helps me get that. It helps me help other people. It helps me have the impact. I like those things about it. I think that success is having the life that you want to have, as long as you're earning more money than you spend. And that can be spending very little and having a wonderfully luxurious life. I watch a lot of people don't have much money of different ages, sometimes young, sometimes older. They travel around the world, they backpack, they go to different cultures and different places. They can live in a tent and the most beautiful nature is available to you. I think everybody should almost experience that to know that they can have a great deal of freedom without a great deal of money. And that status thing is a silly thing. Okay, that's like being hung up on living your life for approvals. And so don't get on the track and lose sight that, okay, what is it that you really want in your life? What is a successful life for you? It's not measured by how much money you have or how much status you have or almost that other stuff. It's measured in, like I would say, meaningful work and meaningful relationships. If you have something as your work that you're into and your craft and it's the thing you love and you have meaningful relationships, I think those are the most important things to make a rich life.